Alright, been a little bit since we've done a live stream. As always, I expect it to take a few minutes, or a few seconds rather, before people hop on. It usually happens in twos and threes, and then it happens in dozens. But a couple of little things we're going to go over. So if you're watching this in retrospect, there's nobody on it yet, but if you're watching this in retrospect after it's been published, the point of this live stream is to go over a couple little adjustments that we're going to make going forward. I think you guys will probably prefer them. It's meant to be easier for me, but you guys will like it. And then some giveaway stuff that I want to do. So yeah, a few numbers are popping up on the screen now. It usually happens, like I said, in ones and twos, and then like dozens all pop on at the same time. It'll take a second. I am so tired, you guys. There's a couple of people coming on. TR's World of Vacuum says hello. Captain Kid says evening. Good evening to you both. What is it? Ron Swanson says when he's Duke Silver, a very warm and pleasant evening to you all. Something like that. There's some people hopping on now. So if you missed what I was saying a moment ago, basically the point of this live stream, in addition to just catching up and staying active, is to not explain, rather, but kind of promote some changes to the channel that aren't changes in what we do or anything like that, but rather just the frequency that we'll be doing it, and I think you guys will be a little bit happy about it. So now people are jumping on, and of course people are messaging me at the same time. I blocked them. I keep getting emails from like Lindt, as in like the chocolate company, and they keep sending me spam, no matter how many times I block them, because it's not real. I think they're like bots that are trying to like farm engagement for stuff, posing as other companies. It's not the Lindt chocolate company mailing me or emailing me. I said like, hey, can I have compensation? I'll do your ad. I don't want any money. I just want the official rank of master chocolatier, and I want a toque, like the chef's hat with a monogram on it that says wildlife. That's all I want, and I'll do your ads. I had an answer. Anyway, I'll get to everyone's questions and comments and stuff, and then I have a couple of things to talk about. Illuminati geometry, which I guess is just triangle. The pyramid. Good evening. Just keep up the great work. I'm trying. It is hot outside. You guys will have noticed that there is a, fewer videos like in the summer. I think a lot of people think it's like this new, anytime somebody notices it, they're like, oh, it's never been like this before. And it's like, no, you just haven't noticed it before. Like in the summer, sometimes it gets so incredibly hot that like I don't have a choice but to kind of back off a little bit. I'm still kind of suffering from the results of the last bout of heat exhaustion I had, and it's still very difficult for me to spend enormous amounts of time in this heat. Give it a couple of, I'm going to say maybe another month or so, and I'll be back to normal, but my body is still not doing well in the heat. So my filming schedule is relegated to very early and late hours, so not as much stuff is being made, or has been made. The Real Deal says, what's up? Jax Delaney says, howdy. You didn't used to say the word howdy, and now it's something I say all the time, and that came from working outdoors in a guest service capacity outdoors years ago, because when it was freezing cold, so cold that your face would get numb, the easiest greeting to say without tripping over your own words or stumbling because your face is cold is the word howdy. You see how little your mouth has to move to say that? It's a word that is formed primarily like inside the mouth, not with the lips. So howdy. You can say that when you're freezing. So I started saying that a lot, and now it's in my vernacular, just how I greet people normally. Captain Sis says, I've been catching slot of gar thanks to you and your information. I appreciate it. If you guys are interested in catching the gar that I catch in all the places that I catch, I did something interesting. In the description of this live stream, I put not just a link to my Patreon, but I did it differently. I put a link to every single fishing spot that's on that Patreon. So when you guys look at the description of this video and you see the links for the Patreon, you'll see a brief, non-specific description of the area. So like, where this video was filmed or where that video was filmed, or just kind of like a nickname I have for it. And then the link is under that, and you guys will see how many of those spots that are on there. Let's see. TR's World of Vacuum says, I sent those pictures on Google Maps to your email around the last time you streamed. If you weren't able to see it, If you weren't able to see it, was a few locations on Clear Creek. Yes, no, I did see that. Thank you for sending those. I'm trying to get my car replaced before I do any kind of driving across the city. A lot of the videos that I've been doing recently are very close to where I live. So I don't want to do a whole lot of driving if I can help it. Yeah, I can feel my Jeep like like when it's going, I can feel it like and it's like any minute now it's gonna go. So I've been trying to limit the videos I've been doing to very close to where I live. So yeah, no, I got that email and I have a whole plan and a video and everything, but I just haven't made it out that way because of the car. Also because of the heat. One of the things that's really difficult right now, guys, when you're trying to film, because you gotta remember, I don't go fishing for fun. So when I think of a fishing spot, I have to think to myself, what are the best possible chances of getting something successfully on camera so I can make back the expenditure of the video, right? It's a job. You have losses and gains and expenditures. So one of the things that's difficult for a spot like that when I live far away, especially this time of year, is that the fish are not going to be active in the middle of the day. They're not going to be active after like 10 a.m., 11 a.m. because it gets so hot. The fish don't like it. People will say like, oh, you can catch gar all day long, and that is true, but the odds of catching them go down, and I got to play an odds game. So you've got early morning hours, fishable hours. Also, if you're going by access, that's like public access, you have to go by the public access hours where you can park your car legally. So you don't get a ticket, you don't get towed. So I'm limited to starting at a certain hour. Then I can fish till the sun gets too hot. And then I have the entire day where I can't accomplish anything. And then I have a few hours in the evening. So timing long trips right now for me, and right now with a car that's falling apart and the sun being so brutal, a long trip is across the city. Beforehand, a long trip was to Florida. Now it's just across the city until I get that car replaced, which I'm very close to doing. I paid off so many thousands of dollars on that thing the other day. I pulled the trigger and I was like, I'm paying off an enormous amount of this car. And I spent a lot of money, but I'm very close to switching it over to a different vehicle now. Thank you. But yeah, I got your pictures, and I'm excited to go to that spot when I have a more reliable car. Brian Larmy says, LeMay, one question. I drive an 18-wheeler down to Houston each week. Is there anywhere to park that's truck accessible to where I can catch some big ones? That is actually something I've never looked at. I'm thinking about locations now, having considered that. I've never actually thought to myself, like, could a truck fit here when I'm going to these places? Because that's never been an issue for me. Let me think. A semi-truck, like an 18-wheeler. Wow. Okay, most of the spots I go to that are like park access would be out, probably. I'm trying to think. I will get back to you on that. Email me. It's because these comments on the chat go away usually after the stream is uploaded, and then it's people who comment on the stream as a uploaded video that show. And there's probably a way to adjust that, but I haven't messed with it. So yeah, send me an email, wildlifefishingshow@gmail.com, and I'll go over my spots with that in mind and see if there's any that I know, even if it's not on the Patreon. I'll just look at spots and be like, oh, I think a truck could be here or there. Actually, not something I've considered before. Fishing Fam says, this East Texas heat is very powerful. Yeah, yes, it is. This summer is going to be brutal. I mean, it already is, but it's going to get worse. I've been saying this for weeks and weeks. This is going to be one of the worst ones we've ever seen. One of the worst ones we've ever seen. It's going to be so bad. And moving forward, this will be more common, unfortunately, I think. Micah May the Fisherman. What line do I use? I am particularly partial to a type of braid. I use braided line mostly, and I use a Top Shot of monofilament. My braided line that I like a whole lot is J Braid. So J-Braid. That's the brand. Really, really strong. There's this video that the Morning Tide guys did way back in the day where they had all these different brands of braid, and they put them through these excruciating tests to see which one actually tested I think they did this in a video. They definitely did a knot video where they tied different braids or they tied different knots together. I can't remember. I think they did a video for the braid, but at the very least, they will tell you that the braid, J braid, breaks above its listed strength, whereas a lot of braids will break below their listed strength. So if you have 100-pound Power Pro, and I can attest to this, 100-pound Power Pro will break significantly under 100 pounds. That stuff is weak. It's affordable, and when you're fishing for small fish, like, 10 pounds and under, doesn't matter at all. Doesn't matter at all. That stuff's going to work. But when you start fishing for monsters, Power Pro is not where it's at. That stuff it will cut on things. It is not abrasive resistant. It is not as strong as it is labeled to be. J-braid is fantastic. So I go with J-braid. I get it off Amazon. And then the other one, which is getting increasingly hard to find, so I'm glad J-braid is kind of replacing it for me. But the other one is a brand of braid called Suffix. But there's a specific one that I use. Most of what you'll see now is this Suffix 832. And it's like very coarse braid. And it's supposed to help like cut through kelp and things like that. But when you are fishing in freshwater like I mostly do, because again, if you're asking me what braid I use, you got to remember all my fishing choices, as with anyone who does this, they're going to be specific to my type of fishing, where I fish, how I fish. So, what was it? Suffix 832 is like a type of line that is meant to have like these little, almost like saw teeth on it. If you feel it, you can feel like, oh yeah, that would cut through kelp. It's designed that way on purpose for that reason. And the problem is when you fish in fresh water where there's lots of wooden snags and underwater trees, if a fish goes around or under that, you want your line to be able to slide off. And when you have that serrated Suffix line, it will cut into wood and you will lose that fish or you'll break off your line. So there's a type of Suffix braid that I like called Suffix Performance Pro. That is very hard stuff to find now. But if you can find it in 80 to 100 pound, that is one of the best braids you can have for the alligator gar type of fishing that I do. So Suffix Performance Pro and J braid are my go-to braids. And then for monofilament, because I did say I use a Top Shot of monofilament. When I'm carp fishing and stuff, like carp, you can catch them on most types of monofilament. It doesn't really matter, especially not in Texas. In the UK, when they're super sensitive and they've learned all the tricks and they know that fishermen are coming to the day ticket ponds to get them, so they're on the lookout for line, you got to get technical with that stuff. Use lead core line and all that. But for the United States, specifically in the South, they really don't care. They're great fighters and all that, but they're not super hard to hook. So any kind of monofilament will work. But when you get into monster territory again, the breaking strain, the abrasion resistance, that all matters. So the line that I like to use for that is specifically, it's Suffix. What is the name of the actual, because Suffix makes different types of monofilaments. I can't remember what the monofilament, I'm looking it up right now. You can get it at Academy, which is interesting because they don't have a lot of good line, but they do have the good Suffix line. They have it in the, like, not the like the glass, spools that are shaped like this, like those shape of spools. It's not in those. It's like in the wheel, and it's like a Suffix monofilament. Suffix Performance. What is it? I'm gonna go crazy now that I can't think of it. I'm looking it up. I have a laptop right off camera that I'm googling this stuff on. I'm gonna say Suffix, because I use the 100-pound monofilament from Suffix, and it is Superior. That's what it was. Suffix Superior. You can get it in massive bulk spools, but I typically don't need that because I just use it for the Top Shot. Very, very good stuff. Very, very hard to break. Cameron Stewart says hi from the UK. Tight lines. What's up? B Yin Yang says, good seeing you in a nice shirt for a change. I wear nice shirts all the time. What are you talking about? I wear nice shirts all the time. When I go filming, I'm wearing shirts. I had one behind me. I must put it away. I'm wearing shirts that are going to keep me alive in the sun. Shirts that I can get covered in water and mud in and not feel like I'm going to die because they're breathable and they can wash off easily. Stuff like that. Also shows up on camera. So that's why I wear a lot of blues and solid colors and not a lot of mixed patterns on camera, because you will just like blend into the background when you've got the wrong colors on. So that's blue is one of the reasons. If you look at TV hosts of note, Jeff Probst, Jeff Corwin, guys like that, when you think back to their shows, they were blue a lot of the time because blue shows up on camera. Blue and white looks really good together, but the white will wash out in the sunlight on camera. But yeah, no, I have this massive collection of like Hawaiian themed shirts. This one my wife got me is actually from Hawaii, so it's a legit Hawaiian shirt. But yeah, I have tons of them. Dustin Poirier has the best shirt game in MMA, and I strive to be Dustin Poirier in the shirt department. TR World of Vacuum says, what vehicle did you choose to get? Probably a RAV4. I've had one in the past and I really like it, and from what I gather, it is extremely reliable. And that is, people said like the RAV4 is not the best at any one thing, but it is significantly better than most cars at all things at once. And that's what I need, so that's what I'm going to get. Dave says, sup? Not much. Yoda Plus says, what hurts? Question mark. A lot. So the older you get, the longer that answer gets. A lot of people don't realize how old I am. I think when I do the live stream, because you have more time on my face and you can see all this, and you might be able to pick out some gray hairs, people are starting to realize it because I do more live streams now. This is actually mileage. It's like he says in Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's not the years, it's the mileage. But no, I'm 34 years old, so the older you get, the more hurts. Let me go down my list of injuries right now. I think I've broken one of my metacarpals here. This is the metacarpal is the bone in your hand that forms the back of your palm. Or technically it forms the front of your palm too, but you can see the bones more clearly here. I think I've fractured this one because it hurts really bad anytime I put any kind of like sideways pressure on my fingers, so who knows. What else? My neck has been hurting for the better part of 15 years. It's a wrestling injury. It hurts every single day. I've learned to block it out. My back still hurts from that stingray fight every single day. Sometimes it's worse than others. Some days I can ignore it. Some days I have trouble standing. What else? My knee, my meniscus in my left leg is torn really, really bad. That one happened on camera in a video, actually. There's a video where I was at what I call my secret fishing spot, and I was reaching down to pick up a lure, and you see it. Like I fall down and scream and then like talk about the injury for a little while, and a lot of people were like, oh, you're so weak. And I was like, no, the actual fiber holding my knee together like tore, and I went to the doctor and like, yeah, you sheared your meniscus like straight down the middle. I was like, that makes sense. It's much stronger now, but I'm still building it back. It's still not 100%. It probably never will be. What else have I hurt recently? Finger, the neck, the back, the knees. There was something the other day. I have headaches all the time, but that's just, you got to deal with that. But yeah, so what hurts? Lots of things. Victor Lockett says, I've got this... Which finger is it that has it? One of my fingers, it's mostly healed now. It keeps opening up. You guys can see on my finger here, that scar is an old knife wound from ages ago. But this scar was an alligator gar scale that cut the top of my knuckle off. And that has taken forever to heal. It took months for that to heal because you're always using that part of your hand. All right, best line-to-line knot from Isaias Alviso. I think I said that right. Isaias Alviso. Best line-to-line knot depends entirely on what type of line you're using. If you're using a light monofilament, easy go-to is like double uni knot. But if you're going braid to monofilament for strength, there's no coming close to the FG knot with the Rizzuto twist the way Briggsy ties it. Look up Briggsy, the Aussie from Morning Tide. His video on the FG knot is just the best one that's ever been put on YouTube. So look that up. Because you can do that with all kinds of strengths of line. You can use that to tie 10-pound braid to 10-pound monofilament. Or you can use it to tie 100-pound braid to 150-pound monofilament. I fought I call it a fight. I got run over by a Goliath grouper in Florida that just treated my drag like it didn't exist. Took me around, it took out maybe 100 yards of line on the run, in addition to the cast. 100 yards of line on a straight run. and it went around something and it cut the line. But when I got it back, that knot was still intact. Like, that grouper he broke the main line, but he did not break the knot. So that FG knot is great. TR's World of Vacuum says, I don't know if you're into WWE, but have you seen what's happening on this SmackDown? I haven't, or on SmackDown. If it's on, I'll kind of pay attention to it, especially now that the business of WWE has merged with the UFC. I kind of pay attention a little bit here and there. Daniel Cormier is always going on about WWE because he loves wrestling. It's fine. It's not my cup of tea. I did think it was interesting when they were like, we're merging and The Rock is coming over and this is the biggest thing ever. And then like the next day they were like, and Vince McMahon is a sex predator. Like it happened immediately. Oh, it's not funny that he did that, but it's funny that he got caught out on that, like in the middle of that massive business move where they were trying to make him like the center point because he's the name everyone knows. It was so funny. Anyway, Certified Fishing Nut says, yo, what's up? Victor Lockett says, love what you're doing with the circle hook gar meta. Thank you. I intend to make some waves with that. I do think it is the future of alligator gar fishing for just decades and decades. The history of this fish is one that was reviled and, fished to extinction. And then decades after that, people were like, yeah, it didn't really do all the stuff we thought it did. We don't really care about it. Some people ate it. Some people caught it for trophy and killed it. Some people caught it and were like, I don't care about this fish. Mixed bag of emotions on why people were catching it. But when they did catch it, they would use whatever works. And the most effective method for catching a gar, any fish really, if you don't care about the fish, is a treble hook. And that's true of anything. The most effective hook for a shark is a treble hook. The most effective hook for a swordfish is a treble hook. It's like the question is, do you care about the life of that fish at all? And the moment people realize that these are amazing animals worthy of protection, they started modifying the hook meta. And for years, until very recently, it has been all about small single hooks. And the brand of hook is debated, the type of hook specifically is debated. People will say it doesn't matter, people will say it does matter. And they're like, eventually everyone just kind of agrees, as long as you have a strong, sharp, very small J hook that can be unhooked from the gar's throat, that is the better choice. And then people started using braided fishing line a long time ago. People don't realize how long that's been around. Jeremy Wade was using, it's a European thing. So Americans are, when it comes to fish safety, Americans usually take a little while to catch up to what they're doing in Europe. But he was using like Kevlar braid ages ago. And that got brought over into alligator gar fishing instead of wire. And now I think the future of alligator gar fishing is not using single hooks. Because you watch guys who care about alligator gar, who are very good at catching them, and they use the single hook method, and they use the braid, and they're all about catch and release. But what do? Every single time they catch a gar, what do they have to do? They don't have a choice. They have to do this. They have to stabilize the gar somewhere. Usually it's on land. And they'll try to sit on top of the gar, pry its mouth open with ropes, stick pliers down its throat, and get that single hook out. Is that better than a treble or cutting the hook off? Absolutely. Is it better than a modified method of circle hooking the fish where you can literally see the circle hook on the side of its mouth and pop it off with your fingers? No, not even close. I don't want to be the guy that sounds arrogant when he talks about what he's done, but my method of catching those fish is far superior to the method that people have been using up to this point. It just is. So if you can use I say modified circle hook because a traditional circle hook doesn't work very well on them. You have to change the technique. That's something I don't think a lot of people realize right off the bat. When I talk about this, they say like, oh, just use any circle hook. It's like, no, it won't work. You can try, but you won't catch any fish. And the way an alligator gar's mouth is designed and the way they feed is very, very interesting. And the modifications that I make to a circle hook, both physically by opening it up, bending it in, sharpening it a certain way, using a specific size, using a specific gauge. I don't use any type of circle hook. I use a certain gauge of wire for it. That's important. and the method by which I say you have to set these hooks. I'm not doing the traditional circle hook method. Like when you watch my videos, I'm not doing that. I'm combining, I've got a technique down, and I go over it in my How to Catch an Alligator Gar video that I've got, which came out in 2022. It's got like 100,000 views on it. So if you're looking through my channel, it's the picture of me holding the big one in the water, holding his head up out of the water. And the technique is a blend of 3 styles of fishing. The technique you got to use to set a modified circle hook on an alligator gar is a blend of the J hook technique, the circle hook technique, and the fly fishing technique. Those 3 things are meshed, and it's almost the best way I can describe it here without getting into an actual demonstration with the rod and the reel and the hook is I want you to imagine the mechanics of a punch, which most people don't know the mechanics of a punch. They think they do, but they don't. The actual, I can't even show you here because I got this couch behind me, but when you throw a punch, like, you're not just like wailing on something. Like, that's not a punch. Like, I'm trying to get this in camera frame. So essentially, when you throw a punch, it is generated from your feet to your hips, and your body just rotates through this motion, and your arm extends, and that power travels from your feet through your hand. So when you're here, yeah, you can't see it. I was going to do this whole demonstration of like the body mechanics in your hips and stuff. If you reverse that, if you watch somebody throw a really good right hand, and then you reversed that footage, and you watched it backwards, the way their shoulders move, the way their hips move, throwing a punch in reverse, that is actually the closest comparison to the mechanics of how to set a circle hook that you're going to see from any kind of sport. So study the way people throw really good right hands, like really good boxers when they throw a right hand, but play that backwards and watch the way their body moves, and imagine doing that with that circle hook. So yeah, I intend to get as many people using those circle hooks as possible, because I mean, you guys saw my last video. I was in my waist up to mud. I had a fish that probably weighed somewhere between 80, 90 pounds, and I had a circle hook just right here. I was like, boop, out. Anyone else on YouTube would have been like, all right, let's pry this animal's mouth open for 5 minutes and dig around in a circle with a pair of pliers. Let's see. Victor Lockett says, Big Game Berkeley Mono is good from Academy. Yeah, that's really tough stuff. That's good. Big Game Berkeley Mono is for the price you pay and for the amount of abuse that can take. That's good stuff. When I do light tackle fishing for alligator gar, I'm trying to remember the name of the video. I can't remember the specific name of the video, but I used a bass rod to catch like a 60, 70 pound alligator gar in a concrete bayou. That was the monofilament I was using. Illuminati geometry. I'm going to do this every time your name comes up. Huge gars and fishes only. Like, that's all you want to see, or that's all that exists? No. If that's all you want to see, no, I understand if that's all you want to see. That's where my money is made. I say that, but then I upload videos of like small creeks and things, and people love that shit. So who knows? And you know what? Actually, that's a good point to pause on. Not literally pause, but like pause the questions, because that kind of brings up what I was going to say earlier about the direction of uploads for a little while. So I'm got some reasons for this. The reasons are less important to you than what it's going to do to the YouTube channel. And I keep talking it up like it's some big change, but essentially, the videos are just going to get more frequent. They're going to be more frequent. And I'm going to spend I'll still talk to people in the comments and stuff like that, but it will probably happen a little bit less. And not because it's like, oh, I can't take the mean people anymore. Like, trust me, I can take the mean people. It's humorous to me. But why? Like, I just don't care that much anymore to engage with people who are not in good faith. Like, it's losing its appeal to me. You know, I used to think it was really, really funny. And then I was like, it's kind of funny sometimes, and it's part of the job. And now it's just like, yeah, I think I'm fine without it. So I'm going to be uploading more videos. They will be less focused on like making the, like, if you look at the YouTube channel, a lot of the ideas that have been coming to the YouTube channel, like my videos have been coming out like once a week, once every 2 weeks. There was a time where something was wrong with me. I can't remember what it was. I say wrong with me, like some kind of mystery. I think it was just like a health issue. It was around the last time I had heat exhaustion combined with the trouble I was having with trying to pull off a certain video. Like those two things combined were giving me fits. But anyway, if you look at the last couple of months, it's been about a video per week on average. I'm gonna start trying to do more. I'm gonna start trying to do 2 videos per week. I'm gonna try to do not just all big fish. I'm gonna try to do little fish, big fish. I'm gonna start. I've been saying this for a while, and I have been doing very well on this, but now I'm gonna do even more of it. I'm gonna start including more reptiles into the show, snakes, alligators, things like that. Um, so yeah, there's going to be more uploads, and then maybe once every 2-3 weeks or so, I will put out like a passion project, which will be like a video that will be like 45 minutes to an hour long, maybe, and that will be like cut and shot the way I envision all my videos in my head. And I think that's one of the issues I've been having is I'm so picky about what my videos look like. I want this. I have this picture in my head of how videos look, and very rarely do I ever have the time to go through with making it that way. And I end up with this in between. So I think I'm gonna just put out more content and then focus all of my camera ideas and stuff like that on like a specific video each month and go crazy with it. And that will be the huge big video that is like stylistic and done to like my standards. Like I'm not saying the quality of the channel is going to go down. I'm saying that you're going to see more videos that you've been seeing frequently, and then like every month or so, you will see a massive video that will probably feel a little bit different, but I think better. So yeah, essentially you'll just start seeing more stuff, and you'll probably see less of me smack talking trolls because I'm getting tired. What else did I say I was going to do? Oh yeah, I was toying with, if you guys, if you're not on the Patreon page, I recommend you do it, obviously. If you look at the link to this live stream, you will see, or the description of this live stream, you will see all the links listed of all the different spots that I have on my Patreon that you can go fish at. There's like 25 of them right now in detail about everything you could ever want to know about that spot. Not just how to get there, where it is, but how to fish it, like what's there, how to fish it. I've seen those areas because I've been doing this for years. I've seen all these areas when they were flooded, when they were dry. I know what the underwater topography looks like. I have photographs of these places dry and then of water. So you can see what's underneath the water. All kinds of stuff. Fishing strategies, where the fish like to hide in these places. Like if you go to this place, the gar are going to be over here. The catfish are like this spot right here. This spot right here actually has bass hiding in it between this hour and this hour. Here's how to get them. Stuff like that. That's actually what those fishing spots are. I think a lot of people mistakenly believe it's just me saying, yeah, this is where the spot is. No, it's like extremely detailed. They're so detailed that it takes me a while to write them. So anyway, check out the link to the Patreon for all of those, but I'm thinking about doing a new tier for the Patreon. So right now, every single thing on the Patreon, all the extra videos, of which there's like 60, 70 at this point, a bunch. There's a bunch of videos you have never seen on YouTube if you're not on my Patreon that are awesome, that are all on the Patreon, specific for Patreon viewers. And by the way, when I said I was going to upload more, that includes on the Patreon. Patreon's going to start getting videos like every single week. And right now, you can get all of that for $5 on the Patreon. But I'm thinking about opening up a new tier on the Patreon. And you guys can tell me what y'all think about this. The cool thing about Patreon, to preface this new tier, is that you can subscribe to a Patreon and then unsubscribe right away. So essentially you pay $5 for the month, but you're not going to get charged the next month. So you have a month. If you do it, let's say you do it on the 1st, you have a month's worth of access to that Patreon page. And mine is pay up front because I was having tons of people join my Patreon and then cancel the day before they paid. So I made it pay up front. It's $5, and then you have the entire month of that Patreon. And what I'm thinking about doing is making a new tier where this is what you will get if you are on this tier. And this tier will be open to maybe 3 or 4 or maybe at most 5 people only. So if you wanted to buy this tier as a one-time thing, you could, or if you wanted to hang on to this tier and it's your spot for as long as you want, you could. But this tier would include a once a month, you would get a guided fishing trip with me, like we did with the guided trips I was doing a few months ago. You would get one of those per month with me from a select number of spots. I would let you choose the spot kind of based on what you want to do, but it would depend upon like safety and all that kind of stuff. Because I can't be taking people, like if you're like, oh, I'd really love to go explore the abandoned, sewer plant. And I was like, oh no, we're not doing that. I'm not gonna take people into dangerous places because I would be held legally liable for that. But if you're like, hey, I really would like to go catch alligator gar at this spot from this video, we'll do it. And if you're like, hey, can this guest come with me? As long as it's like, a safe number of people and not so many people that it's like unenjoyable for you, we'll talk about that kind of stuff. So this new tier of the Patreon would do this. It would give you everything that's on Patreon right now. All the videos, all the fishing spots. You would get a guided trip with me once a month. All of my gear is for you to use when we do these trips. You don't even have to own the gear. I own the gear. I will bring it for you. It would be just like the guided trips I did before. Like I'm the one supplying everything. And if you so wish, this would be entirely up to the person on Patreon, the person doing the trip. If you so wish, I would film the trip for you and put it on that Patreon. And in addition to those things, this tier of Patreon will get private videos. So videos that don't even go out to the whole Patreon. The Patreon still gets all the videos. I still upload videos to the Patreon, but this private tier would get their own video. So if let's say I open this tier up to 3 people, those 3 people, each one of them can go fishing on a guided trip with me to like their chosen spot, like from my videos every month. They have everything that's normally on Patreon. They get their own private videos just for those 3 people, because that's easy to do. I just send them the video links on a private video or an unlisted video. And then when you sign up to that tier, I would send you like a welcome gift. And that welcome gift would probably include like my alligator gar rigs, some fun little like EDC, like everyday carry items, like knives or like tactical like lighters, cool things that I think are neat. So yeah, you would get the gift box, you would get the regular Patreon, you get your own private fishing charter, you would get your own private videos, and you would get, I think I named it all. Yeah, you would get all those things, and I think I would open it up to maybe like 3 people, because I'm trying to think of how many trips I could do per month on top of everything else. It would probably be very, very exclusive tier. So I'm thinking about opening that up. You guys might see that drop pretty soon. And again, because Patreon works in such a way where you can sign up and then cancel, if you were like, hey, this is expensive, I don't want to do this every month, don't. You could be like, okay, I want the gift box and I want the Patreon for a month and I want my own private trip and my own private video. You sign up once and cancel it. And then you've got all those things. And it will be cheaper, by the way, than I was doing the trips for on their own earlier this year. So something to keep an eye out for, because I'm probably going to move forward with that pretty soon. I may not do it every month. Like I might have limited times on when I'll be doing it. Like December, like I'm going to New York City with my wife. It's Christmas. Like it's Christmas for other people. Other people have got their own stuff going on. Fishing isn't so good in December anyway. So the tier might be limited to certain parts of the year, but keep your eye out because I might drop that real soon with details. All right, let's get 1 or 2 more questions out of the way, and then I have one more important thing to say, and then we'll continue with the rest of the normal live stream. I want to make sure I don't scroll past anyone. TR's World of Vacuum says, I've seen people try to catch alligator gar as a challenge on a dock runners by Ugly Stick. Would a challenge like that be possible, and would you try to do it? What's a dock runner? Is that like a really light rod or something? I'm Googling this right now. Yeah. No. Well, yes and no. So I actually have done this already, and that's a video on my Patreon page. I would not do it for a giant alligator gar, specifically because number one, you got to have a boat to do that, to follow the fish around. I'm not stopping a 200-pound gar on the little dock runner with monofilament from the bank. It's not going to happen. And second, I don't like light tackle challenges very much. When I did it for the Patreon page, it was for smaller fish than I normally like tackle with my big gear. I don't like those types of challenges because even if it works for you, it lengthens the amount of time that animal is under stress to a point that is unreasonable. So I don't like it when I see guys being like, "Oh, I caught this giant fish on this super light line." It's like, yeah, you probably really hurt that animal over the course of the 6 hours you're bragging about fighting the fish. So probably not doing that. Certified Fishing Nut says, I've been trying reaction tackle mono and braid, and so far it's been doing really well. Well, that's the whole thing. You got to use what works for you. So when people ask, what do I use? What I use, first off, changes from year to year. I upgrade or I change or I have one opinion, then I have another. There are certain staples, like the Suffix Performance Braid is a staple, the J Braid is a staple. But your preferences evolve and change based on your needs and time passing, and it matters most what works for you. So when you use your own experiments as a feeler for what does and doesn't work, and you come to a conclusion that you're satisfied with a certain brand, use it. That's your brand. If I use something different, then don't feel like you have to switch. For anyone who's watching this, if you're like, oh, I like this brand, it really works for him, but he uses this brand, use what works for you. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Cheers World of Vacuum says there is a potential hurricane coming. There's a potential hurricane coming. Will the gar bite during flood waters? They will. Gar actually require flood waters to breed, actually. Their breeding season is we're on the tail end of that. It's closed pretty much. But they actually do require floodwaters for a lot of their life cycle, so they're quite accustomed to it. I don't recommend you go fishing in floodwaters. For legal reasons, I'm going to say don't do that, because I have with these eyes right here that are getting wrinkles around them every day. I have seen someone drown underestimating the water they were fishing in, and it was not an experience I want to think about again. Brian Larmey says, chiropractor, bro, for the neck. Chiropractors are kind of scam artists. There's not actually any real medical science that goes into that practice. The neck injury is, I'm pretty certain, a nerve injury. It came from wrestling. When I was first starting wrestling, I was doing a drill with somebody over and over and over, and I was not smart about the way I was practicing, and we were doing it on a non-padded floor, and I ended up getting my head slammed repeatedly for a while because I was being stupid. I wasn't training wrestling properly. This was a long time ago, and it has never been the same since. It just hurts. And it's a thing that I've been able to block out, actually. Out of all the issues I have pain-wise, I'm looking over my whole body because there's a bunch of them. This is the one that hurts me the least now. It's healed quite a bit, and it's something I've learned to ignore. But I'm pretty sure it is not just like, oh, your bones are unaligned. Like, what does that even mean? That's not even a real thing. That's not even a real thing. It is. I think the nerves between my vertebrae, or the cartilage between my vertebrae, or something that is a soft tissue, I think, was damaged during that practice. So I'm not high on chiropractors. Dan Mack says, before the hurricane, the fishing gets good. Yeah, it does. The pressure change excites a lot of fish. Two Tone says, when are you going back for that grouper? Oh, when I get a new car. I do want a round 2. I want a revenge match. I've got some terminal tackle from Terra Firma Tackle, who I'm working with now, that is up to the task. I still need to get a reel that's up to the task. I have the Penn 9-aught, but I don't think that's up to the task for a grouper. I think you could pull it off. I don't think it would be ideal. And I've already done the you could pull it off, but it's not ideal approach for round 1 and got smoked. So I do want a better reel for that. So I will probably have to get a new car, which should happen in about a month, and I need to upgrade that reel before I go back. Also, Spencer, who runs Terra Firma Tackle, was telling me that his experience, which is pretty extensive, most of the fishing in Florida kind of cools off a little bit in the summer months, minus the snakehead, because the snakehead are from Thailand. It could be 150 degrees and they're still eating. But a lot of the other fish are like they're feeling it too, and they get a little bit slower. And it already took me 2 days just to get that grouper to bite once. I don't want to go spend another 2 days on that dock in the rain, waiting for that grouper to come back just to get smoked inside of 45 seconds. So I'm going to wait till all the conditions are right for round 2. Stack the odds in my favor. Just in case says, greetings from Romania. Hello. Romania is a cool looking place. Fishing with Burge says, what is my favorite rod brand? That's interesting because every rod brand that I use, there's little things I would change. Let me tell you the ones that I use most frequently. Denali, obviously, I'm a big fan of Denali. The thing I would change about Denali, though, is their heavy action rods are too stiff. They work, but they're too stiff. I would like a little bit more action. The medium heavy is pretty good. That's actually the one I would recommend if you're going to get a Denali rod. Get the medium heavy. I've caught a 150-pound sturgeon on their medium heavy spinning, and a gar that was somewhere in the neighborhood of what reel did I catch that one on? I can't remember if I caught that one on Denali or not, but I've caught fish 150 pounds, extremely athletic, powerful fish on medium action Denali. So I recommend that one. The Big Cat Fever rod, their spinning rod, is fantastic. I think they sell it in a medium action or a medium heavy action. I have one of those. That's one of the ones I use the most frequently on the show. It has the Daiwa BG on it. I caught a 6-foot 10-inch alligator gar on that a few years ago. Handled it with no issues whatsoever. Those are really good rods. They come in at about 7 foot 6.5. Same for the Denali, 7 foot 6.5 for their medium heavy. Their heavy action is 7 foot 10 now. It used to be 8, now it's 7 foot 10. And then I like B&M Silvercat Elite is really good for multiplier reels. As far as multiplier reels go, I would say that's probably the rod to go for because you can get it locally. You don't have to have it shipped like the other two. Most tackle stores will have one, unlike Denali. Denali you can find certain parts of the country, but not everywhere. I have to have them shipped when I buy one. Same thing with Big Cat Fever. I have to have them shipped unless I can get lucky enough to find one somewhere. But the B&M Silvercat Elite, you can go to Academy and pick one of those up for like $45, and that sucker will handle massive fish. Those are fantastic rods. Beautiful, like parabolic bending action on those rods. The handle length is extra long, which I love. Very castable. They've got that, I don't think it is technically an ostrich wrap grip, but it is the closest EVA foam grip to the ostrich wrap grip that you're going to find on a commercially available rod. Really, really wonderful stuff. The last video I filmed, in fact, was, I caught that fish on a, what was it? A B&M Silvercat Elite is the red and white rod that I was using. The reel broke, but the rod handled it like a champ. So those are the 3 I would suggest for alligator gar. And by the way, you didn't ask me about alligator gar specifically, but those are the fish that I go for the most. So when it comes to rod brands I'm loyal to, that's usually what's on the front of my mind. Even though you didn't ask that, my answer is still kind of specific to that. When it comes to other fish, what do I like? When it comes to like really powerful fish on bait casters, snakehead specifically, there is a Fenwick rod. It's a Fenwick saltwater casting rod. What is it called? Is it the Fenwick Elite? I think it is. I think that's what it is. I'm looking this up. I had one of those and I ended up breaking it, not on a fish, but by walking into a brick wall with the tip, I think, in Florida. But man, I did so many trips with that rod, and it handles such big fish. It is so good. And again, it has that long handle on it, which I like. I think that's the one. It's a Fenwick Elite rod, and it's like a medium heavy bait casting rod for saltwater fish, and I use that for snakehead, and I love it. I'm trying to think. Ugly Stick is hard to beat if you're just going for cheap but unbreakable. I mean, that's how they, brand themselves. That's how they run their own commercials on themselves, and it is not inaccurate. That is very true. They are cheap and rather unbreakable. So Ugly Stick is hard to beat for that. So if you're going for like a surf rod and you don't want to break the bank, but you want to catch big fish with it, and sensitivity isn't really the thing you need the most. Like if you're going for pompano, you're going to need that a little bit of sensitivity to feel the bite, to see the bite. If you're going for red drum or sharks or black drum, and you're like, I want a cheap surf rod that can catch a 6-foot bull shark, The ugly stick is the ugly stick saltwater surf rod is like your go-to. Dan Max says you should write a book. I would buy it. I, I love to write. I do love writing. I am of the opinion that there are far too many people trying to. It used to be there were far too many people writing books. Now there's far too many people with their own podcast. And I am of the firm opinion that the vast majority of these people do not have the level of expertise in their field. I say their field. A lot of these people don't even have a field. They're just trying to jump into a field. They don't have the level of expertise to give any value to what they're doing. And I fear that I would be kind of the same if I were to write a book. It just depends on what the book was on. I think I have enough knowledge in certain areas to contribute to a book, but I don't know if I have enough knowledge to write or enough expertise in a given area to fully write a book. I think one of the things that I'm really good at, like as good as anyone gets, is like on grounds, person to person conservation education and developing curriculum for that purpose. I think I'm about as good as you get on that. Even though you guys have never seen me do that, and that's where what my background is. I think I'm insanely good at that. And I think if I was writing about that specific topic, I could write a lot on it. Could I write a whole book about it? That I don't know. I think I could contribute, but I don't know if I could flesh out a whole book with the one subject matter that I believe myself to be enough of an expert in. I place a very high value on the expertise and credentials of who is writing the book that I'm reading. Let's see. Certified Fishing Nut says everything has to line up perfectly to punch hook effectively. Yeah, it's a matter of timing. You got to time the bite correctly. You got to time the run correctly. You got to know where that hook is going to be. You have to understand the difference between the modified hook and the regular circle hook. You're not hooking it in the same spot. It is slightly further back. You have to understand a lot. It is not easy. That's one of the things that the single hook method has that people flock to it for, is its simplicity. I am not saying that the modified circle hook is simple. I'm just saying it's better for the animal. And if you care about the animal, you should develop the skill to pull that off. But yeah, it takes practice. Micah May the Fisherman says, what is the best cheap reels for big gar? You know, it's interesting because I had a go-to answer for this and then it broke on camera. Best cheap reels for big gar. All right, spinning reels is a little bit easier in my opinion. The best go-to spinning reels for big gar for me are the Daiwa BGs. They don't have a bite runner, but the quality of that reel for the price is unbeatable. You can catch. I think I used a Daiwa BG 5000 when I caught that giant. I say giant by sturgeon standards. It wasn't giant. To me, it was big though. When I caught that 150-pound white sturgeon in Idaho, I used a Daiwa BG 5000 on the Denali medium heavy rod, and that was able to catch that fish. And I've caught loads of giant alligator gar on Daiwa BGs. I still religiously use Daiwa BGs. They are my go-to reel. I've got sharks on them. Like, they're great. As far as other spinning reels go, a lot of people love the Penn Fierce because you can get that. Like the 8000 in a live liner is a go-to gar reel for a lot of people. They might have cleaned up some of the issues they've had. I have not used Penn Fierce reels with live liners. I have one without a live liner, but I don't use their live liner because I've never had a Penn reel with a live liner that has not broken, like in the middle of fishing at some point, way too soon for it to have reasonably broken. Over and over and over again, their live liner system fails on me when I'm using it for alligator gar. Now, they might have fixed that. I have friends, I know guys who have YouTube channels, like Phil from Bites and Strikes always uses Penn Fierce with a live liner, and as far as I'm aware, he hasn't had that issue yet. You'd have to ask him. He might have had that issue, and I just don't know about it. But there are people who use those reels and love them. I just personally don't, but you should definitely look into it because a lot of people who catch a lot of good fish do use those reels. So you have the Penfierce, you have the Daiwa BG, which is my number one. What other spinning reel are really good for gar? There's other reels that can handle massive fish, like the Shimano Spheros. I have one of those. Wonderful reel. It doesn't have a live liner. It takes forever to adjust the drag system on it. So if you're using like the drag on a light setting to let the run go, it takes you way too long to get it set to set the hook because the drag is so fine. So there are reels that can catch these fish, but I'm still not considering ideal for other reasons. So those are two good budget ones. And then because you said cheap in your question, so let's leave the Spheros out of it. For multiplier reels, I've used the PC Fun Salus X, that's what it is, PC Fun Salus X for a while. I've caught some great fish on it, but there's two problems I have with it. The number one problem I've had with it for the longest time is their drag is not nearly as strong as they claim. It's smooth, which is more important, but it's not as strong as they claim. So when you're setting a hook on a big fish, especially if you're using the circle hooks, you are dealing with the bonier part of his mouth. You need a little bit of that power. So when you see me set hooks on these fish, a lot of times you'll see me, I'll reel down, and then you'll see my thumb go to the spool, and then I'll do my like modified hook set, but I'm pressing my thumb on the spool because the drag is not strong enough on those reels. It's a pretty weak drag system. Smooth, but weak. And then my other problem with those reels is that they broke. They broke mid-fight. Now, that reel is a couple of years old and has seen some big fish on it. So if you're just like, I'm going to have this reel for a couple of years and then replace it, maybe that's the one to go to. Just keep the drag thing in mind. You might have to use your thumb a little bit. What else is there for a multiplier reel that is good for alligator gar, that is cheap? That's the thing, because there's really good answers out there, but they're not very cheap. I think Daiwa makes one that I was looking at the other day, because one of the big concerns you want with a multiplier reel is a very high retrieval rate. And it helps to have a line, like a bait, what is it called? Like a line lay system. You don't need that, but I think it helps. And I found one the other day, and I cannot remember what it was called. Reel casting line. I was looking around for it, and I was like, I need this high rate of retrieve, and I need the line lay system, and I need it to, you want it to hold about 300 yards of 100-pound braid. That's another thing. A lot of these reels these days are made for boat fishermen, so they don't hold as much line. So I'm thinking again, how do I get the proper amount of line for bank fishing? Oh yeah, this one is not cheap. I'm gonna say it anyway because this is my go-to. Like, I think this is the best reel on the market for alligator gar, especially if you've got a medium heavy setup. It's the Shimano Dakota 600. It is a little bit pricey, but if you're saving up some money, I want to throw that name out there because even though it doesn't match your question exactly, it is so good. That is such a great reel. I'm trying to find the Daiwa one that I was talking about, or I was building up to, and now I can't find it. Anyway, you need at least 6-to-1 ratio to get fast enough for alligator gar. Anything slower than that is going to be a little bit harder to use. Big Cash McKay says, hey, I took your advice for long-nosed gar. He was 4 feet long and the hook came out with ease. Awesome. Fantastic. Sub says, go fish. I will probably Monday. It's a holiday, so my wife has a couple of days off, so I'm taking advantage of that time to spend with her. And then when she goes back to work, I'll go back to work. Two-Tone says, I just watched your beach fishing video when you caught that nurse shark. You probably meant to write nurse shark. I was watching your beach fishing video when you caught that nurse shark. I'm trying to watch all your videos. Honestly, this is my favorite YouTube channel. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That nurse shark video, I was trying to do something in that video that I'm still trying to save for a future video, so I haven't told anyone. In addition to the fact that it is hard to wrangle any kind of big animal. That animal is so much bigger than it looks on the GoPro, because it was on my chest, I think, my GoPro. So my hands look proportionately bigger because they're closer to the camera than the shark was. That shark was like 8 or 9 feet long. It was huge, huge animal. It was much longer than the rod I was using, or it was close to the length of the rod I was using, because I was using a surf rod for that one, I think. But anyway, it was a really big shark, and the beach behind me, it wasn't a flat like slope like this. So if I'm standing here, the beach behind me did this move right here, almost like 4 feet up in the air. So like when you're walking, like, yeah, if that's my height, that's what the beach looked like. So I've got a shark here that weighs 150, 200 pounds. It was big. And I'm here, and people are like, just drag it backwards, bro. And it's like, there's an incline that goes almost straight up in an arc for like 4 feet. I am not dragging that animal up that arc. That is why that was so difficult, because the waves were crashing up into that. So I couldn't drag it up. And then I was stuck down there trying to handle it for this thing I was doing for a video. It didn't work, so I'm not going to tell you what it was because I want to do it for another video. I was trying to do something with this massive animal while getting these massive waves crashed in me, because the waves in that part of Florida were really strong that day. And I couldn't pull it up to get it away from the water because of that massive embankment. If you watch that video, you can see it clear as day. I don't know why people aren't paying attention to that. But yeah, so it was very stressful for me to try to get all these things to work at once, and it wasn't working out. I was getting very stressed, and then I started getting tangled in the line, and that was scary. So yeah, that was a nightmare of a video to film, and there's a little bit more that made it complicated than people realize. Salvador Alcala, Bay Area in the building, much respect. Thank you, I appreciate that. Big Cash McKay says, by the way, what are your thoughts on people like reeling with Robbie, who use small hooks and alligator gar and just cut the line? Robbie, I know Robbie pretty well, or well enough, and he does not cut the line unless he has no other choice. Robbie takes great pride in unhooking fish. If you spend any time on his YouTube channel or his Instagram, there's an enormous amount of emphasis he places on unhooking fish. So he doesn't just cut the line. Occasionally he might have to, and pretty much anyone who comes up catching alligator gar of large size might have had to do that at some point. And if you're using a small hook like he is, and I think his hooks are barbless too, the chances that that hook are going to come out are much better. I still am going to stick with my guns and say use the circle hook. That's the best method. But I know Robbie, and I know his fishing practices are very animal care oriented, so he doesn't just cut the line. He might have to on occasion, but he's very fish safety conscious. Two Tone says Rampage said that when he throws a punch, it's the muscle in his ass. Yeah, that's how you do it. You generate power from your legs, and your core is what transfers that power upstairs. Now there are guys, if you read like old boxing texts, there are guys who will say that the majority of punches they throw are just arm punches. And then when they set someone up correctly with it, then they rotate into a power shot. So it really just depends on the individual boxer. Like, there are all-time great Hall of Fame level boxers who have put pen to paper to be like, yeah, no, most of your punches should just be arm punches, and then, throw your body into the kill shot. There are guys who say that. Like, that's the thing about boxing. It's like any other sport. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. But when you throw the right hand for like a straight right shot with power, so straight down the pipe, not an overhand, not like a cross, because a cross is not just your right hand or your rear hand. A cross is very specifically countering over the top of somebody else's punch. That's where it gets the name cross. The technique I'm talking about to watch to set the hook is when you see a really good boxer throw a really good right hand straight down the pipe like that, and then watch how their body moves in reverse. That's what I was talking about. But yes, you're correct. Lots of great punchers have lots of different techniques. Everyone has their own style. Jason Lowell says, have you been up to Maine yet to fish? We have some pretty great spots. No, I haven't never been to that area. The only time I fished that part of the country, or the East Coast, was when I was doing a little bit of fishing in New York City. I would like to go to Maine. It's a pretty cool looking spot. Everything Hate says, just do post any more. Oh, you correct yourself. Just don't post any more videos of you losing it. Why? Why? Don't watch them. Post what I want. Heavy Cheese says, do you have any spots in DFW on the Patreon? DFW. My acronyms are not the best. I'm trying to think what DFW stands for. I might very well. I just don't know what DFW stands for. Oh, Dallas Fort Worth area. That's what you're. That's what you're saying. No. So, guys, if you're interested in fishing spots, the greater Houston area, like I'm going to say up to an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours north of Houston and down to the coast. Over towards the border of Louisiana, down to, I have some pretty good spots down to the south. Victoria. That is where the majority of the spots that I have on the Patreon are. So no, I don't have any in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I do have loads of extra videos, including extra videos in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But the fishing spots are not that far north. Because remember, I'm not just giving a spot. It's a guide service. It's a virtual guide service. It is me saying, hey, here's everything you can conceivably think you might want to know about this fishing spot. I've been there a million times. Here's the info in a way that is like designed to carry over to your success. So there are going to be spots that I know like the back of my hand. Brady Baxter says, have you heard about the recent shark attacks? Yep. There were a few last month in Florida and a couple in Texas yesterday. Sadly, there's so much misinformation in the media whenever shark incidents occur. Yeah, I actually saw a photograph of one the other day, and it was a woman's calf muscle, and like it had the almost like cartoon shark bite taken out of it. It was, and that's life-threatening. That's life-threatening. You can bleed to death pretty quickly, and she didn't, from what I understand. But yeah, there's been a lot of shark attacks this year, and there's a couple of reasons for that. And the number one thing is the very obvious. It's hot, so people swim. Water is where sharks live. So naturally, when you have this rapid onset of heat like we have, people are going to flock to the water. And the sharks are already there. They're already there. If you pay attention or if you fish a lot, you'll encounter them all the time. There's a myth that a lot of people have that sharks live way out in the ocean and they only come up to eat people or because a fisherman made them come up. That's why you see people getting so mad at a lot of fishermen. They're like, you're making the sharks come closer to shore. It's like they are within 3 feet of shore. Whether you know it or not, they're there. I guarantee you, if you have ever been to the beach, a shark looked at you. It saw you under the water and it was like, nah, not interested. Went the other way. It happens. And it's their space. And it's natural. It's meant to be that way. And it's interesting how people think of water differently than almost any other type of animal habitat, in the sense that no one in their right mind would do this. No reasonable human on Earth, no even intelligent human on Earth, would walk out into the Serengeti, into the long grass, and be like, the hell is a lion doing out here? This is where I go to have fun. We can't have lions out here. Like, if you encountered a lion in that environment, you would know it was there. You'd be like, oh my God, there's a lion right there. Like I thought we might encounter one. There's one. There's a lion. Like, you know they're there, and therefore you don't act like an idiot, and you don't flock to that area and then act shocked when there's one there. People treat water as a form of recreation more so than any other type of animal habitat. And people always have. And what happens is we've gotten so far removed from our past where we were on the dinner table on a regular basis that people have mentally removed themselves from the food chain. Not realistically, not actually, but mentally. We have put ourselves on a pedestal where we say the world exists for us. We're like the chosen ones. Everything else was only put here for our enjoyment. Therefore, when I go into an area of the world, I am the dominant living thing there, and everything else should abide by my authority. That's like the mental game people play when they go into the water. And people forget, number one, there are a lot of animals on this earth that are a hell of a lot bigger and a hell of a lot stronger and much more physically well equipped than you are. A lot of them. And some of them live in areas that we like to go to. And they always have. I was reading an article about it was a mummified body that was found in Japan. And it was several thousand years old, and they dug up this mummified body to study it and preserve it and all this, and the body was like mostly intact, but like the arm was separate from the body and it was buried like on top of the body, and it had like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of what looked like knife wounds. So when archaeologists first started studying this, they're like, my God, like this guy gets shot by 1,000 arrows. What happened here? Why is his arm separate? And zoologists looked at it for like 1 second and they're like, shark attack. And they realized that this is the oldest known shark attack in human history that has been recorded, and it's thousands of years old. And this guy got his arm bitten off and got mauled by a shark and was killed. And it makes sense because they were like, well, this guy, he wasn't a warrior. Like when they were studying it, they were like, very clearly this was a fishing village. This guy was buried next to these other fishermen. Like, this guy very clearly fished for a living. How did he die like this? And it was like, shark attack. The guy clearly got killed by a shark. So people have been in conflict with sharks for ages and ages and ages. And it's like, when you go into the water, you're going into the shark's territory. It is not your territory. And that shark does not have reverence for you. You are another animal. That is it. So many people have this mindset that animals should have a reverence for us. And it's like, no, they really don't. Most of them are just apathetic, including sharks. Most sharks are just completely apathetic towards people. They look at you and they're like, is that food? That's not food. Will that hurt me? Maybe. Let me go this way instead. That's how most sharks act with people all the time. And occasionally, sharks will say this. They'll go, is that food? Let me test it. Nah, that's not food. The problem is that sharks are such lethal hunters. They're such lethal animals with that bite that even just that, is this food? Let me test it. Oh, nope, let me go the other way. Just that can kill a person because they're such powerful, lethal animals. So when you go into that animal's environment, you are subjecting yourself, in my opinion, to that animal's authority in that environment. So yeah, there's been a lot of shark attacks. The overwhelming cause for that is just people flocking to the water in mass as the summer heats up, because this has been a surprisingly hot summer. I think a lot of people, like meteorologists, were saying one of the reasons this has affected people so hard is because the temperature normally does this. It goes, and it climbs like that. And this year it went like this and went, all right, we're there. So people were like, oh, it's so hot. Let's go to the beach on our day off. And so many people just went at one time. The odds, it's an odds game. The odds of more people encountering sharks went up a lot faster. So, when you're in the water during dawn or dusk, that's when most shark attacks happen. Sharks are moving in close to shore. They're following migrating fish. They're trying to chase stingrays, and they will come into contact with people. A lot of people will get attacked by sharks. One of the things that is very common in shark attack stories, like a common thread in the vast majority of shark attack stories, are these things. Dawn or dusk, and I saw bait fish in the water. That is almost always two things you hear when people get attacked by sharks. Those two things are a constant. So yeah, there's not like some malicious like movement of sharks. Sharks aren't turning man-eater or anything like that. Sharks don't want to eat people. We're bad food for sharks. We don't have enough fat. Sharks like fat and they like oil. Fish provide the oil. Sea mammals, which not all sharks eat sea mammals. So it's specific to certain areas of the world. But like sea mammals have blubber. They have a lot of fat. We do not. We do not have a lot of fat comparatively to these other mammals. And fish have all these healthy oils. We don't have those oils. So sharks look at humans and they're like, you are not good food. Like, you're not the smart choice for food. And animals, unlike people, eat what they need, not what they want most of the time. So sharks don't want to attack people. When it happens, it's a case of mistaken identity, or it's a test bite, and it just so happens that their test bite is severe. So yeah, I'm very familiar with all these shark attacks. I think it is something that will probably, as people kind of wise up throughout the year, it'll drop a little bit. I do think there's some climate change issues that play in here. A lot of ocean currents are shifting right now, and I think that shifts. I don't think, I know, it's scientific fact. When ocean currents start to slow down or die or shift, the migration pattern of a lot of animals changes with it. And so you're having a lot of fish that these sharks are trying to eat change their migration pattern, and the timing of migration patterns are starting to shift. So there's some climate change issues at play here, but I do think the majority of this shark attack stuff you're seeing right now is the result of the heat rising so rapidly, throwing vast amounts of people into the water at the same time. Let's see. TR's World of Vacuums. I would be sub to the Patreon, but I'm a vacuum repair tech and have so many vacuums to fix and parts for. Sorry for the off topic, but if you need anything like that, just let me know. I am convinced you are not a vacuum repair shop. You're like the guy from Breaking Bad, where it's like that the vacuum store is the front, but it's actually, what is it, the Hoover Max Deluxe. You're like, you provide an escape route for people. Eli says, what's up, wildlife? Since he says, bat. I do like bats. Friends Fishing and Adventure says, hey, from Angleton, Texas. What's up? Flama says, hi, Peyton. What's up, man? How's it going? Victor Lockett says, I'm interested in this new tier, but how can you manage 5 trips for people per month? Well, remember, it might not be 5, it might be 3. Because I think 5 would be pushing it. So it might honestly be 3. It's very simple. I will work with you guys to book it at your convenience. And one of the things I meant to, actually, I'm glad you asked that, because I meant to mention this earlier. If for any reason somebody who buys into that tier can't do the trip that month, it will roll over. Your trip does not expire, ever. I will make sure that you get it. So probably not going to do 5, probably going to do like 3. If I do it, probably going to do 3. Your trips will be based on your schedule and my schedule together. We'll work it out. But this is one of the things about buying that tier, is it will put you a lot closer to me on a personal level. Your access to me will go up. So we will work it out. And then if for any reason, if you have to cancel a trip, let's say you buy into that tier, you're like, hey, this is the day I want to do it. Does that work? I'm like, yes, that's perfect. Let's do like your trip. What do you have in mind? Oh, I want to go where you caught this alligator gar. All right, cool. We're going to go there. I'm bringing the gear. I'm bringing the bait. I'm bringing all this stuff. Meet me here at this time. I do the charter for you. I film it if you want. But let's say going into that, you're like, hey, something came up. I can't make it. And let's say you can't make it for the rest of the month. Your trip is good. Even if you were to cancel that membership, I will honor your trip 100%. That is yours. You paid for it. You will get it. Let's see. Because between 3 and 5 a month is what I was doing when I was doing those other trips. I don't think you guys might realize, because I didn't film any. I don't think you guys realize how many of those trips I did. I did a lot of them. A lot of people bought those charters when I did them. I didn't make videos because a lot of them involved kids and stuff like that. So I didn't film a lot, but I did do a good number of those trips. So I can manage the trips. Sturban says, was thinking about coming down there for a bit to try and fish for some gar. Is there anything I should not do when trying to catch one? Well, I mean, yes, it'd be easier for me to say what you should focus on. Early morning right now, focus on getting there early, fishing when it's cooler outside. Use the freshest bait you can from the nearest location you can catch it. You want to, have gear that is heavy enough for the fish. Having gear that's a little bit too heavy is better than gear that's a little bit too light. Use circle hooks, modified circle hooks if you can, or the small J hook, obviously, if you prefer that method, but please catch and release the fish safely. So yeah, fresh bait from nearby, fish early before the sun comes up. Fishing at night if you can. I always forget to mention that because I don't fish at night because camera work at night is very difficult, and it never does as well numbers wise. Like those videos don't do well. But you could fish at night when the sun goes down. That's a great time to catch alligator gar. So yeah, just focus on the basics. Watch my how to catch an alligator gar video. Everything you need to know is in there. The one caveat to that is what I already mentioned, which is right now the bite is shutting down midday. So early morning is your best friend. Crawdad says, what line and reel should I use for larger longnose or spotted gar? They are easy to catch in my opinion, and none of that actually matters. Now you asked the question, so I'm going to answer it, but that is not as specific because those fish are not going to tax your gear. So I get specific about rods and reels for alligator gar because those things can weigh 300 pounds. They can just destroy gear if it's not up to snuff. But for long nose, because like the biggest long nose you're realistically going to catch is going to be 4-ish feet long, 3 to 4 feet long, and the majority of that is its head. So really, you're talking about a 10-pound fish here. And spotted gar, man, if you got a 10-pound spotted gar, I think that might be a record. Like that would be huge. So anything that you would use for bass or like, slot reds in the marsh, like those types of rods and reels, 10 to 20 pound line. I caught one in the last video I did, a creek video where I caught a spotted gar. I think I was using 10-pound braid. So yeah, don't get too hung up on that kind of stuff. Just a smooth drag is what you want. A smooth drag. So like the Shimano Nashi. I can't remember how to say it. Something with a smooth drag like that will be good. Penn Fierce 2000, like something small. Those are easy to catch. Friends and fishing adventure. I lived in Miami, Key West, now back in Angleton, Texas. We had a grouper under our dock. He was so annoying. Yeah, they steal everything. I found a really cool place in Florida I want to go to near the Keys where it's somebody's video because like people, you can't hide spots forever. You can't hide my spots forever. Like eventually people are going to find them. It's just part of the business. So I was watching this video and I was like, oh, I bet I know where that is. And I looked it up. I was like, yep, there it is. And I think the person even gave it away too. So I don't feel guilty for finding it. I think they told someone where it was. And I was like, yep, confirmed. But there's a spot in Florida near the Keys I want to go to where there's like this, there are these two like saltwater lakes. It's like the ocean and then like a reef and then these two little lakes. And basically they just get filled up when the tide comes up. And there's this gravel walkway in the middle with like these little reefs, like overhangs. And there's these gag grouper, or I think they're gag. They might be Goliath. They're just tiny. They're like, this long and that big around. Hide under there. And I was like, oh, that would be so cool to catch one of those from that spot on like lighter tackle. But yeah, grouper will take whatever they want. And there's no stopping them. Flama says, just stop by to say what's up, and I hope all is well. Looking forward to the next video. I may rewatch the live stream later. Well, awesome, man. I'm glad you stopped by. Next video is coming up soon, and that brings me to one of my last written points that I was going to make. Let me think if I want to go through with this. Okay. For the next... I might put this in a post, actually. I'm going to put this in a post because I think it'll reach more people. So I'm going to have an announcement for a giveaway concerning the next video. But it will be in a post because that will reach more people than the people who are still left on this live stream. And anyone who jumps on this live stream later may not watch it this far in because we're an hour and a half in. Let's see. Carter Short. For the grouper, all you need is just a big rope and a hand line, and it would be an amazing video. I thought about that. I thought that over. I was like, you know what? If I went there with a rope hand line and a big like heavy duty circle hook, as long as I made sure I was like my feet were clear of that sucker, and I had enough knives on me, I could probably fight a grouper sideways because that's the thing. Grouper going straight up and down that's where all their power is. That canal isn't super deep. That's what a lot of people got on there like, bro, grouper don't go side to side. That wasn't a grouper. And it's like the canal isn't 100 feet deep. The canal is like 15 feet deep. He was already on the bottom. He has nowhere to go down to. It's like, so he's going sideways. Anyway, if a grouper's going sideways, I bet you I could handline it in. That would be a little bit dangerous because you could hook a shark. You could hook some stuff that would, burn your hands with a rope, even with gloves. But the reason I haven't done it yet, because I did think about this, the reason I haven't done it yet is because I'm afraid that if I did end up losing control of the fish, a fish trailing a rope through the water will almost certainly die, as opposed to fishing line, which it can break, because that's probably how you lost it anyway. So the rope idea is something I've toyed with, but I don't know how I could do it safe for the fish yet, if I lost control of it. Eli says, I went to Buffalo Bayou yesterday and caught a 12-pound grass carp with my 4-foot cast net. Almost ripped it pulling it in. That's cool. Yeah, if you're out on Buffalo Bayou during the evenings, you can see them all over the place. They'll swim up along the edge of the bayou, eating on the top of the water. It's really fun to target them with like bread on like a free line hook. They are so much fun to catch. Mr. Harry Potter. Business trip, question mark. Technically, all the trips I take for YouTube are business trips. Parker Smith says, have you ever been spined stung by a catfish? Sorry, I'm laughing. The answer to that is yes, so many times. So many times. I'm trying to think of the really... you can't see it because I'm wearing blue jeans, but there's a scar on my knee right here, a circle, where a hardhead spine went into my knee. This was when I was first starting to try to get YouTube off the ground, ages ago. And my brother and my cousin were filming it, and it was so thoroughly stuck into my leg, like so deep, and the serrations were so stuck in there that we couldn't get it out. This hardhead was like flipping around, still stuck on my leg. We had to like pin it down. And eventually we had to hold still, and we had to do a 1, 2, 3 count and rip it out. And I still have the scar from that on my knee. So yeah, I've had plenty of catfish spines go through my hands and stuff, but the one on my leg, that was the worst. Leo Pro channel says hi. Hello back. Zort says drag system casting reel better than spinning. Certainly more, once you get into the expensive gear, there are going to be more models that will last longer and have higher quality. The highest quality spinning gear is still amazing. Like if you get a Shimano Stella or you get a Daiwa Dogfight, those can catch almost anything. So when you get into like thousands of dollars, everything you're messing with, the drag is beautiful. But when you're talking about like a couple $100, any kind of multiplier system is typically going to have a little bit more power than a spinning reel. But it just depends, you know. A spinning reel has its own sets of advantages. You know, you're not using them for the same thing all the time. So it just depends. I think the Daiwa BG for a cheap reel for like $100, for like $120, $130, I think the drag for the Daiwa BG is about as smooth as it can get. How would you say this name? S4AR. Is it S4R? S4R? SFAR? Anyway, I have a Daiwa and a Penn Battle 3 for leopard sharks, and I love them. Leopard sharks are awesome. I've always wanted to catch one. I'm jealous. I forgot to mention that one. The Penn Battle is a good reel as well. Yeah, they're very reliable, very capable. Friends Fishing and Adventure says, 8,000 Penn Pursuit 4. Been doing me some good. Yeah, the Penn Pursuit is good. Yeah, I think that's the black one, isn't it? Like the black and silver one. They're decent, yeah. TR's World of Vacuum says, I watched someone on TikTok live, and they hooked a huge gar, and he cut the line on camera. There was a dock near him, and he chose not to go to it, and he cut the line. Made me pretty upset. Yeah, I think a lot of people... It's important to remember. I'm not trying to play devil's advocate for everyone, but I think a context that is important to remember and why it's important to keep spreading good information about how to do gar properly is that they are still a fish that very few people catch in comparison to other species. So a lot of people, when they catch a gar, average fisherman is still very much bycatch. I do think we've gotten to a place where most regular fishermen in the United States, in the South, are very familiar with what it is. That doesn't mean they're very good at catching it, though. And a lot of people who are just fishing, casually, when they catch one, like people who go to piers, like people who are fishing casually because it's a day out and they're like, it might be fun to try fishing. They're not very familiar with alligator gar, and they don't really want to handle one. And people who don't handle them regularly are probably going to get hurt by one, even if it's just the scales going backwards over your hand. And they're intimidating. Even if you know how to handle one, the look of an alligator gar can be unsettling sometimes. In regards to being like, okay, I have to wrestle this thing again. So it is sad when people elect not to go through the proper steps to protect them. That is why it is important to keep spreading that information. That's one of the reasons why it's important to show them on camera. I don't fish for alligator gar on camera because I love catching alligator gar. I don't even love fishing. I think enough of you on the live stream understand this at this point. But there's every now and then somebody will still get really upset when they learn this about me. I don't love fishing, and I never have. I am very good at it, but the only reason I do it, I mean, it's fun. There's different types of fishing that are more fun than others, but the reason I do it is because I want to film certain animals, and the animals that I want to film the most, you can't put a camera under the water to film because the water quality in their habitat is not camera friendly. Think about like the Brazos River. Imagine trying to put a camera in that. You wouldn't be able to see anything. So how do you put that animal on camera? Well, you catch it. You put it up, like here's this animal, and then you put it back. So it's a method I use to put animals on camera. So on the one hand, I do think it's important to advocate for proper safe fishing techniques, but that's not even the real reason I do this. I don't catch alligator gar on camera so I can talk about alligator gar fishing. I use alligator gar fishing as a sort of Trojan horse to talk about alligator gar conservation. Every time I move, I can see almost like the wall behind me. It looks like it flexes on camera screen. I think Freddy Krueger is going to come out any second. RM says, how do you decide to use a spinning reel or bait casting reel? Really enjoy your videos. My favorite YouTube channel. Thank you. I appreciate that. A lot of it has to do with the cast. If I am fishing in an area where I need to be able to cast further without a lot of, let's say there's overhanging trees in the area and I can't do the whole arc to use a casting reel, that is when I'll pick a spinning reel because I can do a much more confined space maneuver to pitch that bait further. So if I'm casting a long distance, I'll use spinning reels. If I'm using more than one rod, I always try to have at least one casting rod because it has a bait clicker to it. So whether or not I want a bait clicker or whether or not I can cast at a good distance and cast safely without hang-ups, that's kind of the consideration that mostly go into how I pick the two reels. And then the other consideration, which you probably don't have to worry about, is I think in my head what looks better on camera. I will sometimes pick a reel for a certain area because I know how good it's going to look with the area I'm going to be fishing in the background. I'll be like, ooh, I know this part of the Brazos pretty well, or I know this part of the Trinity pretty well, or I know this part of the San Jacinto pretty well, whatever, fill in the blank, Buffalo Bayou, Braze Bayou. I know the area I want to fish. I know what it looks like at the time I'm going to be there. This reel will look the best on camera. And that is sometimes how I'll pick. Because at the end of the day, it's the camera that is king for me. Fishing Certified Nut, you're one of my favorite content creators, dude. I gotta take off. I'll be looking for your notifications. Keep up the great work. Much appreciated. Y'all's fan service does not go unnoticed. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. Have a good one, man. Malakia Chai says, Dallas Fort Worth is what I think you meant to write. And you were probably talking about what the DTF means. Yes, Dallas Fort Worth. It's a long drive for me. It's about 5 hours. Graham Hammy Boy 69. Love your channel, man. I just caught my first gator gar, first alligator gar. That's awesome. That's really, really cool. It's always a cool moment, especially when you can remember like that moment clearly. It's always fun to think back to. Can't remember my first alligator gar. I used to catch gar on hand lines as a kid, and at the time I was so young I couldn't differentiate, or I didn't care enough to differentiate between spotted gar and very small alligator gar. So one of those two on a hand line when I was like 10 years old was probably the first one. Even though I was into conservation from the age of 6, that's when I was like, I want to be Steve Irwin. I was like 6 years old. Most of my attention at that time was on snakes and alligators. I was fanatically obsessed with them. I still am, by the way. I like them more than I like fish. I don't know if you guys know that. but I actually like snakes more than I like fish. It's just that one of them is just the job. I love them all, but crocodilian snakes, I love them. At the time, I was just obsessed with one, not the other. So it was probably around that age, 10 years old, where I caught my first alligator gar on a hand line, and I just can't remember the specific one. Let's see. LBR Fortnite video says hi. Hello back. Don't tell them the truth. Fishermen understand this. Yeah, there's a sign you can buy, like you can see it at like tackle shops and stuff that you can like buy for your home or your shop or your business, and it'll be like, you know, hunters, fishermen, and other liars welcome. Tiara's World of Vacuums. I don't own a shop. I just do it myself because it's an interesting side hustle and it's kind of easy to work on vacuums if you know what you're doing. That is what you'd say if you were trying to cover for your escapee business. If you were running an identity switch business, you would say that. But no, I've never really thought about fixing vacuums. I have a wooden floor. You guys can't see it from where you are, but the floor in here is wooden, so I don't need a vacuum. I just use a broom. So it's not something that I've thought about before. It's kind of like a question I got earlier about like, can the semis park in these spots? And it's like, I've never considered where a semi could park before. Big Cash McKay says, when will you catch a pike or a muskie? When I get the car replaced, I know a spot, thanks to Spencer from Terraform Tackle, that has tiger muskie all over it. And I am planning a road trip there. But I got to replace that car first. Very excited about the trip. I want to do it so bad, and it's to a part of the country I've never been to before. At least I've never been on a trip there. Like I've driven through a certain part of the country where I know they are, but I was just driving through to get to another spot. I actually want to go do a big, huge camping trip. And you know what? I was talking earlier about how I'll probably do more videos on the regular, and then do like these massive passion project videos. That might be one. 1836. Is that when Texas was founded? Stolen. Texas independence year. 1830. Oh yeah, October 2nd, 1835 through April 21st, 1836. I knew that date. That year sounded familiar. The Declaration of Texas Independence was on March 2nd, 1836, which basically said we moved into this land owned by Mexico and we're going to take it whether you like it or not. That is how that happened. But to your point, 1836 Fishing and Outdoors says, planning on doing any saltwater trips. If you're referring to the Patreon tier that I was talking about, that is up to the patron. So I will have because I want to be able to provide the best trip possible. So I don't want to say like, pick anywhere in the world, and then we show up and I'm like, I have no idea how to fish this spot. I don't know anything about this. And then you have a bad time and you don't catch any fish. I want it to be spots where I can offer you the knowledge of a guide. But there are spots on my Patreon that are saltwater spots that I know very well. I don't film them very much because saltwater videos don't do very well. They never have. So you don't see those spots a lot, but they are on the Patreon, and I have been fishing them for a long time. So if you're referring to that tier on the Patreon that I might open up, where you get like a private charter per month, I will have a couple of options to do saltwater fishing. And if you want to do, like if you're one of the patrons that buys that tier, and you're like, hey, I would like to do a trip to this saltwater location, yes, we will do it. Braden Blazer. Braden says, just went fishing at the San Jacinto River, got nothing. Yeah, I mean, it happens to me all the time. I just don't upload those videos. But for every video I've ever uploaded, which I think at this point is 459, something like that, that number fluctuates because I've done a lot of videos for the Patreon page. I've done a lot of videos that I've deleted over time. I've done videos that are shorts. I've done live streams. So all those videos may not be counting actual fishing trips. But for every video that is on the YouTube channel where I catch fish, there's like 3 trips that I didn't. It's just the way it is. I typically don't upload those ones. Andy Lang says, hey, when are you going to do a catch and cook camp video? You know, I actually have more of those on my Patreon page. I save those for Patreon quite a bit. But going back to what I was saying earlier about doing that trip for the muskie, that would be in that camp, a video. But yeah, if you're interested in that kind of content, more of that stuff goes on Patreon. Yeah, that's one of the things I don't think a lot of people like think about, and it's probably just because I don't advertise it well enough. Because how would you know if I don't, right? How would you be expected to know this if I didn't say it? The Patreon has a lot of videos on it, a lot of videos. Voorhees Gabo. Hi, what reel would you recommend for 6 to 7 foot alligator gar? The Dawa BG, probably 6,500 is the spinning reel I would recommend. And a 7 foot alligator gar, I would say if you're going to tangle with something like that, you want to spend a little bit of money. Get yourself the Shimano Dakota 600, maybe an Abbott. You're not going to have that line lay system on an Abbott, but the reels are indestructible and their drag system is superior. The Shimano Dakota 600, though, is amazing. I love that. Mine broke after many, many, many years of abuse. I finally broke it. So I got to get a new one soon. Renea or Renee. Is it Renee or Renee? I'm going to say Renee because I know more Renees. I've never met anyone named Renea, so I'm probably reading that wrong. Renee. I urban fish between construction appointments. Love my ugly stick. Fits nicely in my truck, good action, and tons of 15-minute fun. Yeah, they are indestructible. And you can use a relatively light rod for a wide range of fish. Like an ugly stick GX2 medium heavy rod, you can use that. I have one. I have 2 at least. I thought I had 3. I'm going to throw one of them away. Or broke one of them. But, actually, I think I gave it away. I gave it to someone. The 2 ugly stick GX2s that I have can catch big bass, they can catch red drum, or they can catch 70-pound alligator gar. Very versatile reels. Yeah, rod. Very versatile rod. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. Captain Kid says, Have you noticed more mucus and musky scent from gar or related to their spawning times? Oh, I thought you were saying musky like the fish, and I was like, I don't know what a musky smells like. I've never actually caught one. Have I noticed that around their spawning time, there's an increase in that? No. So when I'm catching these fish, usually by the time I get my hands on it, I'm in the water with it or in the mud with it. I'm sure if I went back and I watched the videos, I'm usually so focused on the camera that little details like that might slip by. So I can't say for sure that I'll go, yeah, I have noticed this. There's probably something to that, but I wouldn't have seen it. I'm so focused on getting the fish in front of the camera for the brief amount of time that I have. That's not always a detail that's on the front of my mind. And I'm usually halfway in the water covered in mud, so there's stuff everywhere anyway. So I haven't noticed that, but that's interesting to look into. Eric Ragoso says, how do I figure out what's the best lure to use for impromptu trips or places I've never been? Locals, ask them. Ask locals. Look on YouTube for videos filmed in those areas. That's how you do it. You build contacts, you ask them specifics, and then you watch a bunch of videos or you read articles. Not enough people read sportsmen's articles anymore, but they're still out there and they're still great. And people will talk about this is the lure to use for this area this time of year. That information is to be found. You just search it. When you're searching stuff on the internet, guys, there's not as much mystery to it as a lot of people think. Now, I'll preface this by saying that so many companies are investing in AI now, which is like the worst thing to ever happen. Like basically we're burning down the rainforest so people can make pictures of like half humans, half dogs with too many fingers. And it's like, okay, it's not an even trade-off here. And the search results on Google have just gone down so far because of AI. But there's tricks you can use to calibrate your Google search results to go back to pre-AI. So try that and just Google your question, because anytime you have a question, there have been people before you who had the same question and Googled it or wrote it down on the internet. You will find your answer by writing almost stupidly obvious questions into internet search bars. Someone else had the same thought, and somebody else probably wrote it down. Voorhees Gabo says, I love all your videos you put out. I learned a lot. Keep up the good work. Thank you. I appreciate that. Gregory Stevens says, what's up from Atlanta? I want to go to Atlanta. I want to go to their aquarium. Oh, the comments are jumping. Renee says, I was walking, and when I dropped, got nailed by a large alligator gar in Arkabutler Lake. Never heard of that lake. Still have the scars on my back. Scary. I almost walked on the water that day. Like running on the water, like cartoon style. Yeah, I mean, they're powerful animals. This keeps jumping. Every time I try to scroll, it jumps. Gregory Stevens says, love this show. Go to Mississippi and fish the Mississippi River. Definitely on the list of things to do. Let's see. Captain Kid says, yeah, I understand. I've been fishing them while on live videos, so I understand the trouble with noticing things like that. Yeah, when you're distracted by a camera, like your focus like immensely shifts. So you've done that in a live stream. You understand the trouble with noticing scent and mucus production. It's something I've recently come across here in Missouri. Definitely look into that. And I would obviously look into any kind of like peer-reviewed paper on that, because what you may and may not think you're seeing or noticing might just be a fault in memory, whereas like peer-reviewed data like is measured, and calibrated and tested again and again and again. So it's not something that you might just be like, oh, I think this one is slimier, or I think this one smells different, or did it? Like your brain, you will forget. I will forget. Like little differences like that. It's like eyewitness testimony in court is like the worst type of evidence because it's so often wrong. So trying to notice on your own little differences like that, you might make a mistake. So I would look for any kind of like peer-reviewed information on that to see if there's any kind of like measurement, like actual certified peer-reviewed measurement. But I do think it makes sense that would be something that is true. Look up, what's his name? Dr. Solomon David from the Gar Lab in Louisiana. He could probably just answer that offhanded. He probably already knows. All right, I think I went through all the things I was going to say or advertise. Check out the Patreon page, guys. Just look in the description of this live stream that you're already on. Open up the description and look at all those spots. Most of those you can find on the YouTube channel, like there's spots I've been to on YouTube. You've seen them before. And I didn't say all what the videos were for all of them, but I put some of the descriptions on there. And I think you guys will like to know where some of those videos were filmed. Well, if you go on the Patreon page, you can know. And you can fish there if you're in the area, or you want to travel down to the area. And if you want all those extra videos, the over 65 videos I put on there so far, Patreon, it's got them all. So keep a lookout for the new Patreon tier that's coming out. It will be extremely exclusive. It will probably max out at 3 spots only. So when that drops, be one of the first to get it, or you might not get it at all. So keep a lookout for that. And then just get ready for more videos. More videos of more things, more animals, more snakes, more alligators, more fish, more places. Not everything is going to be an epic quest. I'm going to just start exploring all over the place and putting it on YouTube. And I'm going to start putting more attention into my big videos. So big videos are going to get, the small videos are going to get more frequent. The big videos are going to get even bigger. So keep an eye out for all that stuff, and I will catch you guys on the flip-flop.